A little while ago, I was invited to a university to speak at the Atheistic Society.
But were you really? So, I stumbled across this video a little late, but my Facebook feed has been completely flooded with resurfacing reposts of this thing. I guess that means I'm gonna have to go ahead and tackle it. I know that other content creators have already tackled this guy, and you guys have probably already seen the video once or twice before, but regardless, let's see what Pastor Glenn Barrett has to say.
They said, Pastor Barrett, we would like you to come and get involved in a debate with all the atheists.
If they're a college-level society, then I would assume that they actually wanted you to come in and have a debate with only one atheist.
I said, fine. I said, what's the heading? Well, what's the caption? What are we debating on? And they said this, the debate is this, the premise is, there is no God.
And that sounds like a straw man. For instance, the debate topic could have been, is there a God? Do we have reason to believe? Or something like that. But by asserting that it is, in fact, there is no God, it sounds very much like you're trying to pin up this atheistic society as the bad guy. The title, There Is No God, sounds like a single-person monologue or a paper, not necessarily a debate between two individuals with conflicting ideas.
I said, okay. They said, yeah, the president of the Atheistic Club, he will stand up and he will share for 15 minutes on how there is no God, and then we're going to give you 10 minutes to prove to us that there is a God.
And now this is definitely starting to sound fictitious. In no formal debate structure that I have ever witnessed has one side been given more time than the other. It is almost universally going to be something like 15 minutes to one side, 15 minutes to the other, and then possibly 10-minute rebuttals afterwards, but the time is always equal. Your story is already starting to have some logical holes in it, especially if this is a college-level society. I wonder where this college is actually located. I wonder if you'll get into that.
I said, bro, I don't need 10, I only need 2 minutes.
How plot convenient.
He said, come on down. So I went down, I won't tell you which university it was, but I drove to Cambridge.
So you started out by saying that you wouldn't say which college it was, but then you give the location. Moreover, that college has an atheistic society. First of all, if you didn't want to give a location, I can only assume that that's to add credibility to your story. Simply because if you gave a location, then we could ask for eyewitnesses to the event itself. But by not giving a location, now we have to just take your story at face value. Luckily for us though, you actually gave a city that does in fact include 2 colleges. The only issue then is figuring out which one of them has an atheistic society, and lo and behold, the first one is Anglia Ruskin, and in its list of clubs and society, there is no listing for an atheistic society or anything similar. However, the better-known university of the two is University of Cambridge, and of course, that university does in fact have the Cambridge University Atheist and Agnostic Society, or the CUAAS. Hold on to that nugget of information. We're probably going to use it later.
And when I got to Cambridge, I go into this lecture hall, right? And there's, I don't know, 1,800, 1,000 students there. And the lead atheist, he gets up and he's preaching.
Oh, whoa, buddy. Typically, when I hear the word preach, I conflate it with proselytizing, and I don't think that he actually would have been proselytizing if in fact this event occurred. Typically, in a debate like this, I would assume that he would begin by defining his terms, saying what a god is and which type of god he will be arguing against. Usually with something like this, you and the other debater are going to have to talk with each other beforehand to hash out your topic and figure out which specific points you will be arguing for. In this particular story, though, it seems as though a moderator supposedly took over all of the duties of hashing out the subject matter between the two individuals. There's nothing inherently wrong with a moderator hashing out the topic between these two individuals before they get to meet, but what it does tell me is there's a chance that in this narrative, the first speaker didn't actually define which type of god he was arguing against. There's another flaw in this story, because if you don't define what god you're talking about first, it's very hard to actually argue against its existence. For instance, if I'm arguing against Yahweh, the Christian god, and I'm providing points for 15 minutes straight against Yahweh, and then the theist looks at me and goes, well, what about a deistic god? My entire argument falls on the wayside. I would have spent 15 minutes arguing against Yahweh and not actually addressing the problem of a deistic god, which is an entirely different concept. It would also be the same if I were arguing against Thor or Odin, and then a Muslim looks at me on the other side of the debate table and goes, yes, but I'm talking about Allah. But I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume that you two had already decided that you were going to argue about Yahweh in specific, given that you're a Christian. With that caveat given, let's carry on.
And he's spitting and he's frothing at the mouth, and he's eloquent, he's brilliant. How can any rational person believe that there is a God? You got to be stupid to believe that there is a God.
Now, I do know there are some atheists who use this narrative, but if he's a professional debater from a college-level society, I can only assume that this is not verbiage he would actually use. Simply because one of the main logical fallacies that you can find spouted all across the internet is the ad hominem attack. The minute that you say that somebody else is stupid for their belief, you are now attacking the individual instead of the idea, and in doing so, you are engaging in the ad hominem fallacy. You are no longer attacking the idea and are instead attacking the individual. Especially when the conversation is about ideas, attacking the individual doesn't add any credibility to your argument, and it in fact weakens your argument severely.
All these sorts of things, all the things that you've heard. And then they said, and now we're going to get Glenn Barrett, he's going to come up and tell us why there is a God. You ever read the verse, led like a lamb to the slaughter?
And this now sounds like he's constructing a narrative. Not that everything else hasn't already sounded like he's constructing a narrative, but now it seems like he's trying to paint an emotional picture. There's thousands of atheists around him. He's surrounded in an arena. His enemies are everywhere. He feels like he's led like a lamb to the slaughter. His time is less than that of his opponent. His opponent is brilliant, formidable. It's like a modern reconstruction of the David and Goliath story. And just like David, the only weapon he intends to use is something very small that he's going to throw in a sling for maximum effectiveness. One small 2-minute argument to beat the 15-minute argument of the big bad atheist in the arena of that atheist's peers.
So I get up on stage and there's boos and hisses and all these sorts of things, and I come up the front and I just said to the guy, I said, listen, you spoke so eloquently. I said, come and join me on stage.
Here we have another example of narrative building. He goes in with boos and hisses, the crowd all around him is encompassing him, he is completely surrounded and outnumbered, and yet he is the one that extends the olive branch. It's honestly pretty poetic and compelling when you think about it, if we were taking the story as fiction or from a movie.
So he came and joined me at the podium at the front there, and I said, you believe there is no God? He said, there is no God. You cannot be a rational person and believe there is a God.
I'm going to go ahead and challenge your straw man atheist and point out that I have met several theists who are incredibly rational. They have very well thought out arguments, and the reasons for their epistemology are very well founded. Obviously, I don't think this is the case for most theists, but the fact remains that I have met rational theists.
I said, okay, help me out with this. I want to show you something. And I drew a circle on a whiteboard like this.
Oh god. Are you Josh Fierstein? Please tell me we're not going to resort to a Josh Fierstein argument. I have done everything in my power to avoid him on this channel because he's just so stupid. He honestly makes Delano look smart. I don't want one of his arguments appearing on my channel simply by freaking proxy.
I said this circle represents knowledge.
It is a Josh Fierstein argument.
Everything that could ever be known about any subject fits in there. All the sciences, all the arts. You're an intelligent man. You study at this university. How much do you know of everything that could possibly be known? So he took a pen and he drew that and he went, I reckon I know this much.
Wow, your straw man is incredibly stupid then. The fact of the matter is, in order to figure out how much knowledge you don't know, you would first have to actually know how much knowledge there is to know in the universe. That's simply a number that we don't have. I can somewhat accurately tell you how much knowledge I know about everything that we currently know in the world. How much of our present knowledge base I have stuck in my Chrome. It's going to be a very fuzzy number, but I can at least give you a semi-accurate statement. Granted, that statement involves a lot of decimal points because I'm honestly kind of an idiot, but the point is I can actually measure that. For you to accurately measure how much you know versus how much is not known in the entire universe, you have to have the original number. It's like trying to say, yes, I have 200 megabytes on this hard drive, and then trying to figure out how much space you have left on the hard drive. But your computer gives you an error sign every time you try to look at your maximum capacity. You will never know how big this hard drive is, and so you'll never know how much data that 200 megabytes actually looks like. You know you have 200 megabytes of data, sure, but at the end of the day, you don't know how much space on that hard drive is filled. You don't know how much potential is still left untapped. Knowledge of the universe operates exactly the same way. So not only are you providing a stupid argument to this straw man, but your straw man is providing a stupid response.
I said, wow, you're intelligent. He said, yeah, I am. I said, that's brilliant.
In that case, he's not intelligent. I'm sorry, but the more you learn, the more you research, the more knowledge you accumulate, the more stupid you realize you are. Every book you read with new knowledge that comes into your lap opens up the doorway to 1,000 different areas of research, and each one of those areas of research opens the doorway to 1,000 more. As you gain knowledge, it only lets you realize how ignorant you are on several more topics. As an example, I used to be the type of person, earlier on my channel even, that thought that there were only two types of morality, objective and subjective. But if you crack open any philosophy book, you'll find that there are several more definitions of morality. It's not the simple concept that I once thought it was. I honestly thought I had the entire thing figured out, and this was only 4 months ago. But now I realize that there's more research I have to do, and there's more knowledge that I have to gain.
I said, so that's what you do know? He said, yes. I said, and that's what you don't know? He said, yes. But this does exist, you just haven't discovered it yet. Yes. Therefore, could God not exist in a dimension that you haven't yet discovered?
And the crowd goes wild. I love how he even wrote gap there. This is the point where somebody in the audience who's knowledgeable of different logical fallacies should immediately jump up and say, "Sir, but that's the God of the gaps fallacy." It's even more disgusting that he used the God of the gaps fallacy after using the Socratic method to get to that fallacy.
Answer? Yes. Therefore, sir, I would suggest you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic, and one step closer to knowing my Jesus.
Well, given that this person obviously doesn't know jack about philosophy and logical fallacies, I'm going to ignore philosophical definitions here. That leaves us with the colloquial definitions of atheism and agnosticism. This person honestly still believes that there is no God, so, under the colloquial definition, he is still very much an atheist, and your straw man of him is incorrect. But here's the thing, none of that really matters because this event never happened. Remember how earlier in the video I pointed out that we were going to hold on to a nugget of information about him actually giving us enough information to figure out which university he went to? I did some researching on the internet, and it turns out that that university has never actually invited him ever to an event. He fabricated this entire story. He didn't just strawman an atheist, he actually strawmanned a fictional character that he made up in his own head. He made a straw man of a straw man and then punched it in front of an audience for applause. I will never be one to say that all theists are dishonest. There are several theists, and there are several Christians who I've met that are incredibly honest individuals. This person, however, is not one of them. Not only, if this was an actual event, was this a very dishonest representation of that event should it have actually happened, but since we have enough information to know that this event didn't actually happen, we can very well assert that this individual is using nothing but stories in order to assert his own narrative. It's honestly kind of disgusting, especially when he's touting a religion that says that honesty is an incredibly important virtue. I guess this is just one sad example of lying for Jesus. With that said, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. The usual links will be in the description below, Discord server as well. As always, insert end of video tagline here.